Hi, I'm just going to stick my nose in and give my opinion on giving these Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Well, I think all of this is ridiculous. Ukraine is totally unprepared to defend its country. It appears it really has no weapons or artillery of note to defend itself from any type of aggressor. So it has to ask other countries to send in everything. So we have sent in almost $1 trillion in cash to the Ukraine. And of course, the people who are getting this money, their eyes lit up and they were immediately skimming money, charging too much for this and that, and trailing the money off to their private accounts for various things because nobody's really being accountable for all that's going on over there. Every time the Ukraine wins some land, it loses it, and then they have to fight for it again. The whole place is being demolished, and every picture I see of the Ukraine looks like a field with a lot of dried up high grass. It looks like this stuff here. And then the areas where there are buildings, the buildings look like extremely old concrete buildings. Too tall, too old, very prison-like, and they're being demolished by bombs. But it looks like they should have gone anyway because they were just a mess. I'm sure they were horrible to live in. So Ukraine's going to have to build all of that, and it doesn't have the money. Where's it going to get the money? The people who live in Ukraine, they fled, and they're coming to other countries, including the United States. So they don't even want to defend their country. They're saying, I'll be back when it's over. But of course, there are Ukrainians that are staying and fighting it out. But too many people say it's not worth fighting for, and they'll just come back whenever these two groups stop fighting. Ukrainians are Russians. So this is a Russian versus Russian war. Russia has said the soldiers can keep anything they claim during the war. So if they claim property, they can keep it. If they find refrigerators and all kinds of stuff that they want, they can keep it. So the people who fled the Ukraine are going to find that when they come back, if Putin says all of this is true, then they're going to find they don't have a house or anything to come back to because their property will have been confiscated by Russia and given to Russians. Russia has conscripted a whole new group of people who are going to war in the Ukraine. These people are regular workers like you and me. Most of them probably are not skilled in combat fighting, and so a lot of them will just be used as numbers, and they'll be easily killed on the field because war does take trained personnel. Russia says if these tanks come in from Germany and the United States, Germany and the United States can be considered legitimate targets. I've been listening to a lot of people talk about this problem. Most of the people have no background in war tactics, or war theory. I heard one general, and he made a very good argument for not sending in the Leopards. He says they're very sophisticated machines. They take a lot of training, which has not been given to the Ukrainians. They won't know how to use the machines. The tanks need care and upkeep. He says the Ukrainians don't know how to do that. He said they're going to need replacement parts. There are no replacement parts in the Ukraine. There are lots of things these tanks can do, and the Ukrainians will not know how to use these tanks properly and fully. These are M1 Abrams tanks, which the Ukraine wants also, in addition to the Leopards. It's said that after they get the Leopards, after they get the A1 Abrams, they want airplanes. They want airplanes from the United States to fly over Ukraine and Russia and kill the Russians. This is ridiculous. This is not our war. I feel like everything is coming from the United States. If Russia wins, and I think they will, all of the stuff we send over there will be owned by Russia. We send over 500 tanks. Germany sends over 500 tanks. Russia will have 1,000 tanks, which they can use against other countries and even the United States in the future. It doesn't make any sense. The Ukrainians have not prepared themselves for war, so naturally they're going to be more likely to lose. Then their commander is a former comedian. That's crazy. And he's flying around doing publicity, which of course I guess he has to do, to begging for money and tanks and so forth. He has set out a notice that Ukrainians are supposed to stop taking vacations. I'm shocked. You mean they're taking vacations? This, again, is crazy. Do you really need to tell Ukrainians that they need to stop taking vacations abroad? This is a T-72 Soviet-era tank. Now, the Soviets have tanks, but they want to know the latest technology. They want to know what are they going to be fighting if they fight NATO nations. That's why they want the tanks from Germany and the United States, so they can capture those tanks. They can break them down, find out the technology, find out how to use the tanks, find out how to build more, just the same, equal, and better, and be able to fight NATO countries on an equal basis. Russia is afraid that the military in NATO countries is too much, and so it doesn't want to be the aggressor against NATO countries. But if it can get a hold of all of our planes and tanks, bombs and shooters, it can then invade countries, including the United States, and have the same artillery to use against NATO countries that NATO countries will be using against Russia and China. And they won't have to worry. And they will have gotten all this stuff for free, because Once the 500 or 1,000 tanks come into the Ukraine, Russia can just come down hard on the Ukraine, capture all of the artillery, the machines, and claim them as their own. So, based on listening to a general, that's my feeling. I saw one lady who is on the Defense Committee for the United States. This woman looked like a mother. She looked like a very nice person, but she didn't look like she had read anything about war or war strategy. She didn't look like she had been in the military. Maybe she had, but she didn't look like it. And I wouldn't have trusted her as being military unless she told me she was. She didn't say she had a military background. She did say she went over to visit the Ukraine and wanted to give them our tanks. I think they need more generals involved. They need more people who are studied, professional warriors involved in making these decisions. I'm happy that moms and dads have their opinions. I have my opinion, but I think we need to be listening more to people who are professionals in war strategy. Now that's my opinion. I say don't send all of this stuff over there because the Ukraine doesn't know how to use it. It can't maintain it. It can't support it. It's just going to give up all this stuff to the Russians, and the fact that it needs so many means it plans to lose a whole lot of these tanks to the Russians. So you send it over, they'll use it for a couple days, and then the Russians will capture it and figure out the technology. Don't send them. Ukraine is going to have to just really start talking, and they're going to have to give up some land. They're going to have to get better leaders. Well, what do you think? Like and subscribe.